Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Here are 8 things XRP investors should avoid according to expert. Okay guys, let's get into it. Okay, so I saw this and I thought I'd cover it because I do think there's some good interesting points in here, and the way I try and do my content is this, right? For the people who have conviction in what they believe, like for example XRP going to $10,000, I don't really believe that I'm going to be able to change your mind, even if I give you guys, sound reasons, evidence and data as to why I don't think it will happen. If you guys believe that, you're going to believe that, because the people who do that have very strong belief, right, to a point where they will attack you for saying otherwise. So I never try to kind of show these people, the other way. I give my perspective more for the people who are like in the middle, or people who just want confirmation, because the people who are in the middle, they're the kind of ones who, if they get the right kind of information, they can then do their own research and say, actually, I agree with that. So yeah, okay, I understand that, right? Like they're the people who can be a bit more willing to be a bit more open-minded, right? And so that's who I kind of try and do it for. And for the people who are new, because obviously you get, especially during like bull runs and stuff like that, you get more people coming into the market. They're still new. They're not sure what they want to maybe put their money in. They might have heard about XRP. So they might just be watching XRP content to get more experience about it and understand it. So I think this is something that's good to like cover off, just so they can get a bit more of a better understanding from a realistic point of view. So I've got the 8 points. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the 8 points, and obviously each one I'll just add my little 2 cents in, right? So the person who talked about this was Vincent Van Code, a software engineer and a long-time XRP community member. Yeah, I've seen him on X before, so not someone who I follow, but I've seen a lot of his content, and for the most part, I think if I'm remembering rightly, he's someone who's, generally honest. He's not just doing hype and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, someone who, from what I've seen, seems like a genuine guy. So let's get into the 8 things that he said to avoid. First, he charged investors to stop listening to market commentators who keep asking them what they would do if XRP hit the $1,000 mark. While the XRP to $1,000 price prediction has dominated community discussions, some have persistently asked investors what they would do if this projection materializes. One such entity is American exchange Uphold. Okay, yeah, I agree with this, right? To me, this is just engagement farming, to be honest with you, yeah, because I've already said, like, I've done content as to why I don't think XRP will hit a $10,000 mark or a $1,000 mark. I don't think that. I think XRP could hit 3 digits. And again, when I say 3 digits, you might say, well, what kind of level of 3 digits? Is it like $100, $300, $800, etc.? I don't really have a set amount in that regard. I just think triple digits. So I can't really give you a set idea of what I'm thinking in that regard. And even with that, there's no guarantees, right? That's something that I believe can happen, but I don't know if it will happen. And so when I see people, talking about XRP hitting $1,000, I really do just feel like it's, it's just that hopium post, and just to get everyone excited and get everyone, to get the engagement, basically. That's my opinion, because, I think the people who are like myself, who are very realistic about this stuff, we know that in our head that that's not going to happen. So we're not going to post something like that, right? It's just something that I see as it's a way to get the crowd going and get some excitement and buzz. So yeah, I agree personally with that. Okay, secondly, some individuals and project founders have leveraged the active XRP community to promote tokens beside XRP itself. While some of the projects may be genuine, Van Code insists that investors should stop listening to anyone who engages in such promotions, especially if they do so with a bunch of technical jargon. Yeah, again, of course, right? Like, this is the thing with the XRP community. It's very easy. If you want to try and get big within crypto, XRP is the easy community to join, right? Because XRP has a massive community, right? And obviously there's these conspiracy theories, right? There are the conspiracy theories of how XRP can get to $10,000 and stuff like that. And so if you can be interested enough with the way, you promote your information, it's quite easy to get a following in XRP. All you've got to do is keep talking about XRP hitting $10,000. Like, I've covered someone very recently who's started like, putting out XRP content, and he's putting out XRP information that are from like years ago, which are like debunked years ago, and like, people are lapping it up. Like, this is the thing. Like, as I say, when you get into like a market that's heating up, or just in general, you've got new people coming into crypto all the time, right? So they're seeing this information. They may not have seen it before because it's years old. So they see it and they think it's brand new. It's not. And so a lot of these creators, they get into XRP because it's very easy. And then because they get a big following, obviously you get a lot of opportunities to promote other things. And so what they'll do is they'll take that because it's money, and then they'll just start promoting other coins. Or they'll try and link it somehow to XRP. Like I've seen before where you get an article and it could be like about XRP, but then, about like halfway down, they start talking about a whole other crypto. So they clearly just use XRP as like the title to grab your attention. And then once they've kind of got your attention, they bring in this other crypto that they're talking about, saying, oh, how this other crypto is new and could get like 1,000x gains. And it's like, you can see what they're doing. It's quite clear. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Some people are just using the XRP community, whether it's them to promote other coins to make money, or whether it's just to make money off of them, just giving them inaccurate information. Unfortunately, that's just the way things work. Okay, third point. Vanco targeted community pundits who often make bold claims, and instead of providing verifiable sources to these claims, opt to present screenshots that the average investor cannot easily substantiate. Yeah, very, very good point here. So once again, this is what I mean when we're talking about these influencers who they just want to get a following, right? Like they'll manipulate things. So they'll maybe doctor screenshots and stuff like that. Like there was something a little while back where there was something about an ETF, I remember, and it was claiming that an XRP ETF had been put through. This was like 2023, so a very long time ago when the whole ETF thing wasn't happening. And they'd put in this information that like an XRP ETF had been filed, and I think they said it had been approved, or they showed that there was this filing. And it was by a big company. I can't remember if it was like Grayscale, maybe. I don't think it was BlackRock, but I'm not sure. But it was a big company. And this was just a doctored image, right? It was completely photoshopped. So like, this is where people will take screenshots and they'll, take out certain parts of it, or they'll just take certain bits of information, skew it so that it goes into their narrative. This is the kind of things that influencers do. Like, you got to understand, like, this whole thing of like being an influencer, if you're just someone just pushing hype, there's an art to it, right? Like, to being deceiving, there's an art to, they look at it as like, oh, we're doing entertainment here. So that they're very clever in the way they do these things. And, unfortunately, it does work for them for the most part. So, it's a shame, but yeah, it does work. But I completely agree with that. Fourth point, Vancode also advised against looking out for projects that promise yields. Notably, while the XRP ledger has been around for over a decade, it still does not have a native yield-bearing feature. As a result, projects such as Flare's F-Assets and Axelar's MXRP have stepped in to provide investors with the opportunity to earn a yield on their XRP holders by simply locking up their tokens. I'll stop it there. But yeah, this is the thing, right? I will say with getting yield on your XRP, just understand that there's risk to it, right? And look, you could say there's risk with just getting into crypto, period, right? Like your crypto could get hacked, your wallet could get hacked, you could lose your seed phrase. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. So I'm not trying to act like there's not just risk in general in life, right? There's always risk, but you've got to understand what you are getting into to make sure that you don't make mistakes, right? You don't want to be in a position where you end up doing something you regret. So while I will say, yes, there are risks in everything, make sure you understand the risks. Yeah. So you're taking a risk that you are comfortable with and you're happy to do, because otherwise, obviously, you will regret it. And so, yeah, to me, there are opportunities, obviously not on the native XRP ledger just by itself. That's why, as he said, there's things like Flare and Axelar now that are providing these. But yeah, these opportunities are there. You've just got to be careful because, you might go in looking to earn a yield and you could lose everything. So you just got to understand the risks before you get in. Okay, fifth warning. Vanco took aim at video representations of famous individuals promising a giveaway for the XRP community. Notably, most of these videos are AI generated and come from bad actors looking to hack the accounts of unsuspecting investors. Yeah, absolutely. This is something that Brad Garlinghouse actually did point out at one point, because you could be watching an XRP video and then suddenly an ad comes on and it's Brad Garlinghouse talking about this giveaway, about giving you, double your XRP and stuff like that. And obviously, as this guy said, it is actually just AI generated. So it looks realistic because you're seeing Brad and he's opening his mouth and these words are coming out and it's his voice, but it's AI generated. And so you have got to be careful with this. The best thing I can say with this stuff, in terms of like people saying about giveaways and stuff, if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. That's the best thing I can say, because like when you hear them saying like, oh, we're just going to give this giveaway and, we're going to match whatever XRP you've got, like, what's the likelihood that they're just going to do that, right? Like, it just sounds, oh my God, this is incredible. Unfortunately, people do fall for it. Like, I've seen someone who said, I think they lost, I want to say it was like either 6,000 XRP or like 10,000 XRP. It was something like that. And of course it was a big deal for them, right? Like that's heartbreaking. And so, there was on X just saying like, is there anyone who can help me? Like, is there anything that can be done? I don't know if he got the money back, the crypto back, XRP, but this is what I'm saying. Like, it's very difficult. So you have got to really be careful for that, because scams are running rife. And unfortunately, influencers do stuff like this as well. Like that, they'll make out that they're going to do some kind of promo or something like that. Or, again, with coins, like it could be coins that they know are not going to work out, but they'll just get paid to like shill the coin, to promote the coin and stuff like that. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of people out here who just, that they're just heartless. So unfortunately, that's just people that you got to be careful of. The 6th point involved Vincent Van Gogh suggests that investors stop listening to community pundits who post content with philosophical bearings in an effort to convince them to purchase something. Yeah, like, again, this is the thing with XRP. There's so much like, there's so much like conspiracy around it. And so, people try and use all these things for XRP to justify it. And, like I've even heard like, biblical references and stuff like that. And look, I'm not here to talk religion or anything like that. But the thing for me is just this, like, just be careful with what you're taking in, because I'm not here to say, I don't want to have this discussion in terms of what's right and what's wrong. But like, you don't know what's going to happen, right? And this is my point, where it's like, it's the same as listening to a chart analyst, right? With a chart analyst, I will watch a chart analyst, or I'll listen to what their perspective is, but I don't take that as gold. I don't take that as, that's 100% what's going to happen. I do it to get an idea of the market, and then I'll, make a judgment based on how things pan out from there. But I'll never put all my investment decision just off of what a chart analyst says, because to me, I know the deal. They say it's not financial advice. They're giving you their perspective. And the other thing is as well, like, if you show a chart to, like, let's say 5 different analysts, you could get 5 different perspectives, right? Some people might say, yeah, we're in a bear market. Some people might say we're in a bull market. Some might say we're about to go into a bull market. Some might say we're about to go into a bear market. Some might say we're just ranging right now. So you can get so many different perspectives. Like, it's hard to say what's going to be the right one. And so, while I will take on board these things, I'll never just take someone just at their word. And the philosophical stuff, like, yeah, like, I think you've just got to be careful with that stuff, because it doesn't always mean that this is accurate. And sometimes they might be using that kind of stuff to try and, like, you got to understand, some of these people, like, they're like salespeople, right? So they're trying to use different things to back up the emphasis of what they say. But, like, for example, I've seen an influencer who I've debunked before, and yes, they use this kind of stuff to try and justify what they're saying, but I've been able to prove some of their theories, like, inaccurate. I've been able to do that. So yeah, just be careful with that kind of stuff. 7th point. With the XRP community recently being home to speculations of all kinds, the software engineer warned market participants to be wary of individuals who make claims they do not understand. Okay, yeah, that's another thing. And like, this is why you'll catch me, calling out a lot of influencers, because when I, hear some of the stuff they say, I can easily go out and debunk it and say, that's not accurate. And that's why I do it. It's like to show you guys, hey, listen, like this is what the guy said. Here's X, Y, Z as to why that is not right. That is not correct. So just to let you know, heads up, I wouldn't go with that information if I was you, because it's actually inaccurate. There's a lot of influencers who do that, unfortunately. I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of influencers out there with absolutely huge followings. And in my opinion, they're not giving you good information. They're not. They're really not. They're giving you a lot of hype, a lot of inaccurate information. And yeah, they're just profiting off of this stuff. And just, I really do believe some do it just not like on purpose to give you bad information, but I just don't think they care, right? They just get the information and do the story. And I don't think they care to verify it, fact check it, they're not doing research. They just put it out. And obviously because it sounds positive, everyone laps it up. They get a huge following. That's how it goes, right? Eighth and last point, Van Code advised against listening to those who throw around the word quantum in content unrelated to quantum computing or even the field of physics. Yeah, once again, I just say this about people just putting out information that they don't understand. Like this is where, as I said before, I've called out influencers because I'll listen to what they say, and it's like, that's just blatantly inaccurate. Like I can tell by what you're saying, you don't actually understand about XRP or what this does or how it works, because the things that you're saying contradict the point that you're trying to make. Do you know what I mean? So like, again, it's just a thing of just be careful of influencers, because, some will say stuff, and in all honesty, if you like have done your research, you'll be able to literally say like, that's not right, and that's why I do content the way I do, because I can listen to these influencers and say, that's really not accurate. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I pointed out just to try and help you guys. So yeah, 8 really strong points here, things to be careful of. I really agree with these, to be honest with you. And unfortunately, the market is rife with, let's call them influencers, because that's what people call them. But, these influencers who, I'll be honest with you, some of them are just literally cashing in to make money. Like they just don't care. They don't understand it. They're just saying whatever and it works. So that is the biggest thing, because especially within the XRP community, because there's so many conspiracy theories, people just play to those conspiracy theories and they just milk it. They really do. They absolutely milk it. And that to me is like the biggest danger, to be honest. So hope this has helped, but definitely some things that you should take heed of if you're invested in XRP. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.